Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video from Saint-Soaps. For those that don't know me, because it has been a while since I posted a video, my name is Ashley and I make artisanal soaps by hand using traditional cold process soap making methods. Today I'm going to be showing you how I made my limited edition Christmas soap, which is called Spiced Christmas. My approach today is I'm going to be trying to just talk more casually, I guess, without a written script as I go through the video I've just edited, because I felt like before it was a lot more rigid and almost like a performance. So yeah, I'm still trying to figure out my style, but here we go. So today I'm going to be showing you from the start the methods. I have over time tried different things, like you see I'm using a tea strainer here to help filter out any little bits that haven't dissolved properly of the lye in the water. So that's a lye water solution which has cooled down to room temperature, which I've just placed into my melted oils, and this is going to be the thing that activates or reacts with the oils that turns it into a soap. So the aim is that now that I've kind of activated the oils and the lye together, it's on a timer. You know, you've got to make it work quick before it solidifies and hardens. So this is a process of me making sure that I add any colors and patterns and get it the way I want it to look before it sets properly. So I've just done a really light mix with my blender to make sure that it's still watery, because as we saw in the opening, I decided to do a swirl pot pattern, so it's like an in the pot swirl, that's what they call it. So you need to make sure you don't over blend it because that thickens it up quicker. So here I'm just dividing the soap mixture up into two containers so that I can do two separate colors. And once I've added the two separate colors and the fragrance oils into the two separate containers, I will be adding them back together and then placing it into the mold together. It's always important to scrape down the sides of your containers, because otherwise the batter that's up the sides won't necessarily get mixed into the main body of the soap properly, so it might be won't have the color added to it. There's been a few times in the past where I might have missed a spot, so it's just like plain colored batter. Is it weird that I call it batter? Other people call it batter too, but I think it's because we associate it with cake making a lot and baking. Here I believe I am struggling to open, I've managed to open it, the packet which has the green mica coloring in it. So this was a lovely deep green. I don't believe I'd used it before. This is my first time using it, and I was like, hey, you know, obviously I wanted Christmas, kind of like Christmas colors. When I did this soap, I wanted to make sure that I didn't do very, I guess, like usual or common kind of colors. I didn't really want the traditional, you know, red and white or red and green kind of thing. And there's nothing wrong with that. I don't know, I wasn't feeling it. So here we are going to see me struggle to open the copper mica color packet. I actually edited this, but I literally struggled with it for like a full minute because I didn't want to take my gloves off, because I find if I try and take the gloves off after I put them on for a little while, they get turned inside out and I just have to get a new pair. So I didn't want to waste the pairs I was wearing. So here's this lovely rich copper color. I'm really glad I'm over time experimenting. You know, the less colorant you put in, the lighter the color will be. The more you put in, the darker the color will be, or more intense the color will be, I should say. So here I was like, you know what, I really want to make sure I'm putting in enough. So yeah, I did like 2 heaped spoonfuls, or almost 2 heaped teaspoonfuls. Sorry, can't speak. Yeah, so now when I go to mix them in, it's always a good idea, because I only have one blender and I am not going to waste time, precious time, between mixing the two soaps to go clean the blender off. It's okay if even though the two colors are both kind of dark in their own way, I did the copper color first, and then I try and bang off as much of the color as I can in the soap. And then you'll see that I then go and do the green color. So if you do the lighter colors first, go from light to dark, you can use the same blender. Usually the trace of color that's left on the blender from the last one you've mixed isn't that big of a deal. But the reason I didn't do green and then do the copper is that I realized I thought the green could tint the copper color. And so I really wanted the copper to be nice and bright, because out of the two it is the brighter color. I have learned also to make sure I disengage the actual blender stick from the motor part, the handle, because otherwise you can make the connection loose and wobbly. I've accidentally done that. Here I'm using my pre-measured out amount of fragrance oil, which this is spiced bundt cake. It's really nice smelling. It's one of my favorite scents. And again, I wanted something which wasn't a necessary a usual kind of Christmas scent, but definitely if you smell it, you'd be like, oh yeah, this reminds me of Christmas. I'm using a hand whisk here just to limit the amount of fast, quick blending with my motor mixer that I'm doing, because again, that will really quicken up the thickness of the soap. So by trying to incorporate it as much as I can with a hand mixer, it's not thickening it as quickly as the electric mixer. So then I will do a really quick blitz afterwards just to make sure it is nice and blended, but yeah, that's fine. You can see there as I scrape down the side of that copper one, it made that light color streak, and that's exactly why I should constantly make sure your sides are mixed down into the main body of the mixture. Luckily I don't hand mix it too much because it definitely makes your arm sore after a while if you keep mixing. You'll notice how when I move the containers, the mixture is still very liquidy, and that's exactly what I want. Because now I will be pouring the copper into the green and kind of swirling it around as I pour it in, scraping out as much as I can. But after this, you don't mix the green and the copper together because you'll ruin that swirl. It will start to actually blend together and make a new color, and that's not what you want. You still want them to be very distinct together, but by doing this in the pot swirl, it's a little bit different to a drop swirl, which you would have seen in previous videos, or I will do in more videos. A drop swirl is where you drop one color into the other when it's already in the mold. I know that description is not very good, but by doing this in the pot swirl and then pouring it into the mold, it makes it a lot more swirly, and like the swirls are very thin, which I really like. I think it's really cool. They're two very different kind of patterns, obviously, but this one has to be a favorite of mine. And see here, I'm carefully pouring, trying to make sure that I'm not like muddling or mixing the colors together too much. I was a little bit concerned. You can see there's a lot of green there, but afterwards it came out fine. There was plenty of the copper mixed all through together. And here I am, because I don't need to keep any of the excess little bit of batter or anything, I'm just making sure I scrape everything down so I can put it straight into the mold with the rest of it before I get to decorating the tops of the soap. And there is the spill. We all know that I can't go making a soap without making a mess, and I thought I was doing so well, and I think I was trying to make sure that when I tipped the container up it wasn't blocking the camera, but by doing that I accidentally poured it over the side of the soap container. At least it wasn't too much, it was just like, you know, the little bit of remnants. It's not like I poured the half of the soap mixture out of the container. But I definitely make sure, while it's okay to like be a little messy, sometimes it's good to clean up during the soap making like this, because it just gets in the way. And especially if you pour it on the table, as I go to move the actual mold around, it's going to get underneath the edges of the mold, and it's going to, you know, like smear across the table and get messy everywhere. Also, cleaning up the sides of the mold where those drops were on top means that the edges of the soap will be a lot neater, and I won't have to tidy it up as much later on. And this is what the top of the soap looks like plain before I go in with a toothpick, and I'm just swirling it to create a little bit of a texture. It's not really that big of a deal this time around, but definitely makes a cute little pattern, and just make sure that those blobs or string of color that fell on top are more swirled. And here I'm trying something new. I don't do this very often. Using a tiny bit of, I think it was sunflower oil, which is one of my oils that I use in my soaps. I've mixed a little bit of sunflower oil with a bunch of gold mica. And what will happen is, even though it's like straight oil with the mica, because it's being mixed straight into the top of newly made wet soap, as the oil, you know, the oil and lye work together to turn into soap, this oil and mica will also straight away turn into soap as well. It's going to react to the lye that's in the body of the soap. So it's not going to be an oily top at all or anything like that. You'll see as you stir at the start again that it turned out nice. But here I am with a toothpick again, just making some really nice swirls. I really love the pattern of how this turned out. I think I might do some more plain tops, just like swirling the toothpicks through it. It's really cool. You'd use a toothpick, I've used skewers before as well. There they are. I had some leftover icing, soap icing from making previous soaps, and I made these little, I'm calling them abstract Christmas trees, and they're sprayed with biodegradable silver glitter. They remind me of, these are my little ode to the Grinch. The Christmas movie my dad and my sisters and I watch every year is the Jim Carrey Grinch movie. That's our Christmas movie. That and Prince of Egypt. That one always reminds me of Christmas, but for some reason. I think I got it for Christmas one year, so I watched it on Christmas and I've just always thought of that as well. But yeah, so these are my little abstract Christmas trees that remind me of the Grinch, and these are going on top of the soaps. So I've just taken off my gloves here because it's a lot easier for me to handle the pieces, the embeds, the little Christmas trees. Of course, it's probably wise to keep your gloves on the entire time you're around the newly made soap because lye mixture can burn your skin. Trust me, I know. And even find somehow that after I've finished making soap, my arm will be like get an itchy burn on it, and I'm like, what's going on with my arm? And somehow I've accidentally like touched the edge of a soap container or something. So you just gotta wash off as quick as you can. But here because I'm not actually touching the actual main body of the soap at all, I've made the choice to take my gloves off and carefully place the little Christmas trees on top. I'm just carefully counting out and trying to space them to the best of my ability because I want to make sure that each slice of soap, when I cut the loaf, will get individual Christmas trees on it and I'm not accidentally cutting through the middle of them. I really am scatterbrained. I have a bad memory. It's honestly, I can't help it. I do my best to be organized, remember everything, but there's always something I forget. And this time it was marking these soap slice, like markings on the mold. So I would know where to place, like guidelines on the edges on the pink, just like putting little notches of color with a ruler to help me know where the slices would go, where I would cut them. So thank goodness I was pretty good. I'm not going to say I'm like an absolute like perfect genius when it comes to, I don't need a ruler and I know where to slice my soaps. Like you all should always be prepared, and there's nothing wrong with using a ruler and measurements. But thank goodness this time around I was pretty good. So yeah, each of them got their individual little Christmas trees on them. And here I'm using biodegradable gold glitter to give it a little bit more sparkle. And I just think it just added a little something on top, so I quite like that. I didn't feel like it was too over the top, I thought it was just nice. And here we are. This is about 3 or 4 days later. Sometimes I get impatient and I want to cut my soaps like after 2 days, but I've learned to be careful to make sure I can demold them properly. And that means that they're hard enough that I can handle them without putting finger dents in the soaps. And yeah, they can be handled and cut well. If they're too soft, they're just going to squish and the colors will smear inside the soaps, etc. But here I'm using my hand slicer to carefully slice each of the pieces. So I have the end block that I push the soap loaf up against before I cut it. I have that set to 3 centimeters. That's how thick my soap slices are, but it is adjustable. But every time I always make sure that I measure it beforehand to make sure that accidentally it hasn't moved or anything. But I cut the ends off, the tiny bits off the end to make it nice and neat. And yeah, making sure I clean the wire between each slice just means that any leftover residue, you might see it you can kind of see it when the wire comes up. You see right there, I didn't actually clean that one. And again, it's not a big deal because these colors are dark. If I was doing like a really light colored soap, I would be a lot more careful because the color can transfer to the next slice. And it's just like a superficial thing just on the outside, but you want to make it like look perfect as you can, as close as you can. So I'm just like wiping off the bits with my fingers. It's just a lot quicker, I find, rather than using a rag, and then afterwards I just will be wiping down and cleaning the whole slicer anyway. So there we go. And here I am trimming. This is one of my favorite things to do, is to trim the edges of the soaps. So when I first started making soaps, I didn't do this because I was like, hey, what's the point? It's just an appearance thing. It doesn't really matter. Some people don't do it, and that's perfectly fine. But I decided to get a vegetable peeler one day and started doing it, and I was like, this is really fun. So that's not the only reason I do it now. I think that it does kind of just make my soaps look a little bit more polished. So yeah, I've been doing the edges of the soaps, and they're a lot of fun to do, like I said. The curls that come off the edge that are left on the table, I store them away. They don't get wasted. So I actually use them to make confetti soap. So they'll be going into my jar of lots of different soap trims and shavings, and they will later on get turned into another soap, which is really fun to do because you never really know with that kind of pattern use exactly what you're going to get. So here at the same time, I've been trying to do my best working on my social media presence, and so I've been trying to work on my TikToks at the moment. I do have a TikTok account, so I will put the link down the bottom in the info box underneath the YouTube video, as well as my other social media, so be sure to go check it out, subscribe to my TikTok. And yeah, at the time I was doing this, you might see the soap move up and down the frame. It's because I was also recording with my mobile phone to use for TikTok. So I was trying to make sure that I had both my camera and my mobile stationed in a good position, and that as I was doing this, they were, could both see the soap being done at the same time. So it's a little bit difficult. The only thing with doing this is I really want to get a new vegetable peeler. That's what I'm using to trim the edges. That you'll notice every now and then after a few turns, I have to stop and pull the trims, the curls off the soap slicer, like there, because it gets stuck. I really wish I could find one which had a bigger gap between the handle and the actual blade itself, so that the curls could just fall off. But yeah, that's the only little annoying bit there, as they get stuck. Now the scent for this soap, like I mentioned before, is called Spiced Bundt Cake, and I really enjoy it. I think it's a beautiful smell. It's like a baked goods, a bakery kind of smell, or a cakey kind of smell, but it's not very sweet, it's not over the top sweet, and it's not super strong either. Sometimes I find it difficult with those bakery or sweets smells for them to easily smell artificial, and this one smells beautiful. It smells real, and it definitely kind of makes you want some dessert, a slice of cake for dessert. It has those great smells of spices in it, like cloves, and probably a hint of cinnamon and maybe even some orange in there, but it also has the spice of rum or brandy in it too, which just takes it to that little bit of extra level, that spiciness for Christmas that you want in there. But yeah, it's a great smell. Again, it's not very overpowering or anything, which maybe I talk about that a lot in my videos, I'm not too sure, but I feel like with soaps, I mentioned this to a customer the other day, yes, you want your soap to smell nice, you are going to be using it, but you don't want it to be overpowering and strong, because not only do we use soap, but we use a lot of other body products to treat ourselves with and to take care of ourselves with. So you don't want it to clash with your body lotions, your moisturizers, your deodorants, your perfumes, all that extra fragrances that you're going to put in there. So you can smell it, but it's not going to be too much going on. And here is the end product. I'm really sad I actually forgot to record the stamping of the sides of the soap. That will be up on my TikTok though. I did remember to record it on my phone. But you'll see that I stamped my business name down the sides of the soap, which is another little touch that I added and I absolutely love doing with my soaps. But yeah, this is my spiced Christmas soap. I do have some still available in the store, but it's limited edition, so once it's sold out, won't be available until maybe next year when I do it for Christmas again, we'll see. But I really loved how the gold and the dark green came together, and the smell is delicious. So thank you for watching, guys. I hope you have a great day, and I'll talk to you next time.